Alexa, off. I apologize because I'm cooking in the background. You can probably hear it sizzling and it's making a noise issue. I should do one of those little mics if I'm gonna keep doing these videos, right? But listen, I can't edit, and I'd like to put this question up so that you guys can actually see it. But I had a new follower on Instagram message me specifically about carb cycling. I don't know if you guys can see that. And if carb cycling, specifically the question was that also, do you do carb cycling? You know, I heard it helps, but not sure where to start. Talking about weight loss in general, right? And I think this is one of those things that is a very, it's the epitome of what the issue is as it relates to basic weight loss and fat loss outcomes, right? This is the reason why, right, most people aren't either able to get the result that they want or feel like they don't know where to start when it comes to getting the result that they want with weight loss, fat loss, muscle growth, just feeling better, looking better, better overall health outcomes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We're looking at things like fat loss, carb cycling, sorry. There was also other things in there too, like how to mix, you know, cardio and training together, which we could do a separate video on at another time. There were things in there about supplementation, you know, all these different things, how to work through nasty protein powders, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. All of these things are so secondary to the reality of what you need to be doing, right? If not tertiary, quadriary, right? If not, way down the road, right? Way down the road. The fact of the matter is, it does not have to be that complicated. Everybody is looking for that more complicated, you know, approach, because in all honesty, what they want is some sort of confirmation bias, right? Like they're looking for somebody to tell them, oh yeah, sure, just carb cycle, right? Just do this, just do that, just do, you know, some running in place while lifting weights at the same time. That's gonna help you burn a maximum amount of body fat. You know, newsflash, it's not gonna work, right? All of these things have been around for years on top of years, if not decades on top of decades. Right? And they've all been done in different ways, shapes, and form, right? Who remembers aerobics, right? Like aerobics were a thing where back in, you know, I remember my mom sweating to the oldies watching Richard Simmons, you know, thinking that she's doing something great for herself, which I'm not going to sit here and say she wasn't doing something good for herself, but it probably wasn't what she needed in terms of weight loss, right? Bottom line though is, it's as simple as it seems. Right? And sometimes it's just really, hey, you gotta bite the bullet and you gotta work a little bit harder. And that's really what it comes down to. It doesn't mean that you need to work harder in the gym. Doesn't mean that you need to do more cardio. It doesn't mean that you need to suffer more as it relates to your diet while, you know, eating nothing but green vegetables and salads and never touching a carbohydrate. Sorry, my rice is going off. And this is all applicable to the video, by the way, in terms of my cooking and my rice going off. The bottom line is what you need to do is take more accountability over the foods that you are or aren't consuming, and that's just what it comes down to. If you guys worried less about carb cycling, if you worried less about fat burners, right, and you worried more about how many meals you actually produced and ate this week, if you worried more about how many calories you consumed this week, if you worried more about, you know, the not relying so much on convenience, right? And that's something where in and of itself, we can make an entirely separate video about this, but just to, you know, expand on that a little bit, stop buying food that you can just throw in the air fryer that's coming packaged already. I don't care if it says it's real good food or not. Stop buying it. Stop relying on shit like that. That's just a convenience measure, right? Put more effort into the food that you are consuming. It needs to start there. Well, I would even urge somebody, hey, if you are going to the gym and doing cardio and lifting weights at the same time, you know, 4 or 5 times a week, why don't we put a pause on that for a little bit, right? Because you've always heard the concept you can't outwork a bad diet, right? Let's put a pause on the fact that we're spending, you know, what does it take? You're an hour in the gym. It takes you, what, half an hour to get ready, you know, whatever, 15 minutes to get home, eat a meal, all this different stuff. The bottom line is if you take all that time, maybe 2 hours, that you're spending getting ready and getting back from the gym and whatnot, right? Take that 2 hours a day and put that into food, right? Solidify that as your foundation first and foremost, and I guarantee you will get more results than no matter what amount of cardio you're doing, no matter what amount of lifting weights you're doing, no matter what supplements you're taking, you're going to get better results. The results starting here, preparing your own food, cooking your own food, bringing your own food with you, instead of eating out and stopping at Dunkin' Donuts and doing, quote unquote, the best I can. You're not doing the best you can. You can do a lot better than that, okay? If you still need to lose weight, you're not doing the best you can. All right? Get out of the freezer section, buy yourself some proteins, buy yourself some veggies, buy yourself some good quality carbohydrates that you have to make, and utilize that food, and I guarantee you, it'll be a lot easier to stay in a caloric range that's going to benefit you long term when you're eating these whole foods, right? Do you know how hard it is to take rice, ground chicken, whole eggs, oatmeal, veggies, fruits? Don't worry about fruits having sugar. That's stupid. Don't worry about it. You know how hard it is to take those foods and overconsume to the point where you're going to gain weight, gain substantial amounts of body fat? It's hard for most of us. It's a very hard thing to do for most people. I'm not saying that you can eat as much of this as you want and get the results. I'm not saying that, right? But what I am saying is it's much harder to overeat these foods than it would ever be something that comes out of that freezer and goes in the air fryer, or something that you're getting from Dunkin' Donuts, or something that you're just trying to do your best, right? A lot harder to overeat these foods. You can start there and make up so much ground, right, that it is pointless thinking to start anywhere else. All right. Now, the last thing I'm going to say on this is don't forget about accountability. All right. That's what we help clients with. The number one thing that I tell everybody that we help clients with is a certain level of accountability. It's one thing saying I'm going to eat more of this food every day. It's another thing having a check-in weekly or bi-weekly, right, with us where we're actually going through that. You kind of have to, put yourself in a position where you're actually fulfilling the promise that you made to yourself, right? And like actually verbalizing that to somebody or typing it out to somebody, right? And then as you are working with somebody to hold yourself more accountable, you should be building more of your own personal accountability. And even if you don't want to work with us in any way, shape, or form, or any nutritionist or coach, right? Don't. Hold yourself accountable in different ways, right? That's why we love the idea of tracking macros. My dog sneezed. Because it's one of those things where you have to log in every day and track that. There's an accountability factor to that. You have to actually do this thing. You have to actually put in effort, right? So again, good quality whole foods, right? And that's even a boring way of putting it. Make your own foods. Forget about the words whole foods or this, that, and the third. Those things are extremely important. I don't want to seem like that's not. But at the end of the day, forget about that. You can put a ton of different seasonings on it. Enjoy the food that you're consuming, but put more effort into that food. Put more effort into that food. You'd be surprised how much you can enjoy it if you put effort into the food that you're consuming. Bring those foods with you. Stop eating processed foods, right? And again, that's a boring way of saying stop eating processed. Everybody says whole foods, less processed foods, right? Think less about convenience and more about putting in, how am I going to put in more effort every day to the food that I'm consuming, right? Whether that's cooking it, whether that's bringing it around with me, etc. You start there and I guarantee you more fat loss.